First of all, thank you for joining us today on our Empowering Voices series. And before everything else, this conversation could be recorded if you agree. So just wanted to ask you that first thing first.
That's fine.
Okay, perfect. So I know it's I suppose, I know it's not even too early where you are. I suppose it's like 1 p.m. So it's like midday. Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
No, here is 10 p.m.
Nice. It's kind of late for you.
No, I mean, we're doing this job. I'm kind of used to living with the American, like the Californian time zone. So okay. I'm getting used to that. Just
being up at all hours of the night.
I'm used to checking my mails like 2 a.m., 3 a.m. because that's like where people are up. They're already up there. So thank you for joining us. It's such a pleasure to get to meet you and have this conversation with you. And so I was really curious about like how did you get in touch with Until, and how is the relationship between us? So Until There Is a Cure, no profit, and maybe.
What was the question? I'm sorry.
I was just curious about how did you hear about Until There Is a Cure and our series?
Oh, that's through my publicist, Ali Lasky.
Okay, so I think you're quite familiar with the topics that we deal with, because I also okay, and because also like
you're welcome to talk about them on my on this segment too, so my fans can learn.
Because I know it's been 1.5 years after the pandemic, so I mean we have a lot to say about pandemic and community building and solidarity, and the industry is changing so much. Yesterday I had an interview, was yesterday or the other day, I can't remember. 2 days ago I had an interview with Katie Cassidy, which is also one of our partner with our series. So we were talking about the film industry and how it changed so much, especially after this 1.5 years, which was incredible. So as an actress, I was really curious about regarding your opinion too. What do you think representation, especially in movies, TV series, of affected community, for example, the LGBTQ plus community, or the HIV/AIDS conversation, and in your opinion, what do you think the representation status is now? And as an actress, how the industry has reacted in the last maybe 5 years?
Are you asking me about the LGBTQ community mostly? Yeah. I think it's pretty obvious that the whole film industry and Hollywood, music industry and everything is like opened up to it, and it's a beautiful thing to see happen, because that community is everywhere we turn, and so to ostracize them or to make them feel bad about their choice has been a very huge detriment in Hollywood for a long time, which then it spills over into just all of humanity, since all eyes are always on Hollywood and what we do and all that. So I'm just pleased that conversation has opened up so much, and as it had such huge changes.
So I also was very curious to ask you, what are your hopes and future for the industry? What are your hopes for the future for the industry regarding maybe acceptance, more possibilities and opportunities for affected communities, and those kinds of things?
I think that we're on the right track, to be honest with you. I mean, that's almost the same as asking me about like, when do I think men and women will be paid equally and treated equally? But I think that where we're at right now is some changes that can't be reversed, and affected communities are finally being considered, and to me, like being more considered. And you just can't act. You can't act or treat them the way that we used to. Especially with work and with opportunities and even just chances at getting healthcare at the same time. I mean, these things are making huge changes already. Do you agree?
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a very important topic that has been discussed this day, the access to affordable treatment and resources for all. Because I suppose that in the States, since it's also like so big and there are so many different communities and realities that are very different between each other, the access to resources can be very different from one state to the other. So
I was going to mention that too, and it can be, and it's, I mean, but that's just because there's a huge pandemic right now, and the resources are I heard last night they're becoming limited for anybody and everybody, because it's just getting so out of hand.
I did a little bit of research, because I always do before these interviews, and I was reading that you grew up in Arizona and then you moved to California later on.
Yes.
So there are I suppose there's a very two different states. There's a very two different worlds to live in. And maybe I was really interested in hearing what you think that the concept of community and like to have each other's back can be so different in like from Arizona and to California, which is like so huge. And there are so many different words like San Francisco or Los Angeles, which is like a thing on its own, a word on its own, I suppose.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, to be honest with you, in Arizona, I grew up like very humble beginnings, in poverty. So my life has always been surrounded by that until I became a successful actor. I mean, it's still hard. I mean, people probably think I'm paid way different, but yeah, the difference between Arizona lifestyle and California is vastly different. But it's all relative to your community. You know what I mean? It's because in my community was a mobile home park. Like that would be different than, going into like the suburbs of Arizona, into the tract housing. I mean, it's just, yeah. I mean, I remember stuff so clearly when we were kids, like, that there was like less access for my mom. I mean, my mom even like got a separate address so we could go to a different school, because the school that I would have to go to was not going to be the best public school learning. So though that's like highly illegal, and especially now, you have to do sometimes what you have to do to make sure that your kids get the best education. Unfortunately, that mentality that you have to do what you have to do can also spill over into like, kids getting into selling drugs, or kids doing things that to make ends meet, to having to do what they have to do. So, but yeah, the difference between Arizona and California, and I can only speak for myself, is that once I was in California, there was more opportunities for me to go like, live my dreams. And that was like the access to more, acting classes and dance classes and just everything that it would take for me to make it in the field that I wanted to.
Do you feel more supported by your community where you are now, or as have you felt a shift in the perception, like from when you were starting out being like in a community which supported you compared to maybe post-pandemic reality? So after this 1.5 years.
Yeah, I mean, things are which community are you speaking of right now?
Maybe when I speak about community, I also like refer to your can also be not blood related family, like maybe your loved ones or your friends or the people who live near you. So the people you feel like they're truly part of something that you built with.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, sort of, but no, not really. I feel at times supported. I feel at times not supported. I mean, it just depends on everybody's individual circumstances. Like maybe some of my community's going through a personal loss or a tragedy or a loss of a job or something. So it just, I don't put that much pressure on that stuff, because I never really had that, like to where I can just count on my community. I mean, I think people sometimes are so isolated into their own little world that they forget to reach out, into the community, and they don't really know who would be there for them.
I think that's something that we all need.
Yeah. I think ultimately, I think that we ultimately all need to reach out a little more and make sure that everybody's like doing okay. If you get maybe if they post something funny or they're just acting a little off, like, you should always take a second to reach out, because that call could be something that changes their life or a choice they're going to go make.
I totally agree. And I think now more than ever, we really need to pay attention to the people we love, but also like the people we have around, to our environment, because it can also be our neighbor or somebody right. that is around us. So.
Absolutely. And it might not be someone that you would normally even talk to, but by talking to them, it could really, change a lot.
I know that
can you hold on? Can you hold on one quick? Okay, hold on. I'm so sorry.
Don't worry.
Sorry about that. My phone kept ringing with the same person. I was making sure everything was okay. Checking on the community.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, totally. Don't worry. I know that you have portrayed some characters which have dealt with very sensitive topics. Maybe brave characters, or they're very, very different one from the other. Since I was also talking with like in the past few days about the importance of like seeing, especially when like you're very young, seeing somebody, like watching somebody that looks like you, like watching a TV series or a movie and seeing somebody who maybe has the same struggle as you do, and maybe that has gone through the same things that you have gone through. And now I think that the industry is changing so much, because we have examples for like Euphoria, which deals, I guess, a TV series which deals with topics that have rarely been discussed before. And so like Euphoria, or even Sex Education, since the new season coming out, we've been talking about this a lot. How important do you feel like important it can be to see somebody who has like that you can see yourself reflected in? So you see somebody who has maybe the same problem or the same background as you do, and maybe even has the same ambitions, because like I feel like I can imagine that since you said that you grew up in a completely different background than the one you are now in, but you were like you had this willingness like to work hard and pursue your dreams. Like how maybe how great it could have been like to see somebody who comes from the same background and who has the same ambitions and who has the same dreams.
I think that's all. I mean, we're all so uniquely different that you're not gonna see like every exact thing in somebody, like down to their looks, but I mean, I think that it's more important in shows these days in a social responsibility to make sure that we're using way more diverse characters, characters that, just because you're an actor and that from the outside, that means you're rich and you're doing so well. Like, it's important that these showrunners and creators, make all these different types of characters, because I think that that's what makes for like a hit show. I think it's character development. I think that when you have relatable characters, because not everybody grows up rich, not everybody grows up poor, not everybody grows up, one race or another race. So it's like, that's what's interesting about human beings, is that we're all so different. So I love when a show encompasses like all different types of characters, if the script calls for it, of course.
Yeah, it's nice when it fits, like when it sits well with the whole plot. So it's like nothing like that was just put there because we need diversity, but it was like it fits well. It sits well with the whole idea. So it's very nice. I wrote down some examples of movies that we've been talking about. I just wanted to hear since they were related to the HIV/AIDS conversation, as an actress who has been doing this like for many years, and we can see all the differences between, and also how the industry has been reacting to this whole conversation, which is, again, as you said, access to treatment, sex education, like sexual and emotional education, starting from schools to colleges to universities, and affordable treatment, and so on. Like, some examples would have been Milk, How to Survive a Plug, which was a very fundamental film about HIV, Dallas Buyers Club, which is very famous here in Italy. I don't know why. Philadelphia, which is like one of the hits.
What was it?
Dallas Buyers Club.
Oh yeah, okay. Yeah.
Rent, which is one of my favorite musicals, by the way.
Yeah.
And The Old Deal. There are some examples of representation of people living with HIV. And since we have also portrayed characters who deal with sensitive topics, I think who better than you can answer questions such as how important can be the shift in people's opinion about seeing somebody who maybe is HIV positive, or has gone through difficult topics, or comes from an non-traditional background.
I mean, those are all amazing movies that you mentioned, and musical. I think that, a lot of these creators or writers that, wrote these types of characters might know someone that has it. When the AIDS epidemic happened in the 80s, people were very, very, very scared of it. I mean, it caused a complete just pandemonium of stay away from people. If someone bleeds, you're gonna get it. Like, there was just so many misconceptions of it, and so many stigmas on it, which, of course, one of the stigmas is definitely, once everybody was educated, it was all about, safe sex, and, stay off drugs, and, don't share needles, or how about, for me, don't even use needles. But, these are, so as we became educated and learned about this epidemic, I think there was more compassion and empathy, perhaps. And also, it starts off as HIV, and then, you can control that you can control that your whole life, in my understanding. Even, I mean, you definitely have a weakened immune system, but then it turns into full-blown AIDS, and then there's no coming back from that. I've lost about 2 friends to AIDS, but I think it's very important to make these types of films. I mean, most of those films that you mentioned all became huge hits, and then, it's like the same as for me, and trying to plead my case all the time. Like, there's a script written, and it calls for actors, and there's always someone that's going to be up to do it, or is right for the role for some reason or another. And so I think it's important that we remember that these are amazing actors, and there's a reason why you get so drawn into the stories, because they're doing their job, And I just think that it's always important to make movies about every type of situation and curiosity that people have, even things that don't really exist. It's like, because if it can exist in your mind, it might be able to exist in someone else's mind too.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it can really change people's perception of and it can also maybe console them or soothe them. As you said, grief can also be it can be dealt with when you share stories together. Mm-hmm. So at the base, there is the fundamental always storytelling, and how beneficial it can be for the storyteller, for the actors who portray characters, and for the stories that have been told, and for the people like me who hear them. So about storytelling and the wonderful job that you do. So actors who have this gift of telling stories and making other people the people that we talk about, and the people you portray, just keep on living, and we live there, they're there, especially in movies and TV series. So we don't forget them. I think it's great, working regarding the HIV/AIDS conversation. Many of the conversations and many of the stories that we tell are of people who want their story to be heard. So I think it's great, like listening. And regarding of this, I know that you have a huge media following, and I wanted to ask you, which is very like kind of a curiosity, regarding this, maybe regarding what happened with the HIV/AIDS epidemic and sensitive topics and things that like revolved around, like things regarding the stigma, which, as you said, is still unfortunately going strong regarding some topics. What would you like? What are some things, or what is like one main thing that you would really care about, like that you would like to say to your following, or like that you would like to get, like to underline?
Oh goodness. I mean, I just think I really appreciate all of your questions today, and just, it's thought provoking, and it's important. It's important that we think about our community, and it's important that we think about what other people go through, and if it's important or not important to have, roles that people can relate to in shows and movies. And I just think it's important that we understand that a lot of times that the roles that are portrayed in hard situations and hard topics, they wouldn't be hard topics if they were easy to talk about, right? So it's like that also goes for the actor. It's like there's another human being that's taking a role on to hopefully help, gets a narrative across that is something hard to talk about, that you can't just go to the grocery store and say, hey, what do you think about this, to just any old person, because that's like, whoa, I'm just trying to grocery shop here. So there's also a time and a place for these types of things. A lot of times it's time and places in a TV show or in cinema. So I just want my fans to just stick by me and know that, my dream is to play all different types of roles, and that I really put my heart and soul into them. And I take a lot of care and sensitivity. I'm not just careless, and that I'm thinking about everybody else along the way, and the impact that I may or may not make, and that I'm a human being too, and I've been through a lot, and really I'm only like here to help. Like, I'm not here to harm. I'm not just here to make money and then go to my Hollywood parties. Like, I really care. So that's something that means a lot to me.
Oh, it's so nice to hear. It's I know it's not easy, especially when dealing with stuff that, as you said, you can't really bring up anytime in conversation. You need like to have somebody that you trust to talk about these topics, especially like. So it's really nice that we're creating safer spaces for these stories to be heard, and also like maybe also educating people to to pay more attention when it comes to talking about, for example, abortion or access to treatment or affordable healthcare, also in TV series and movies. So they want to see something, they want to watch something committed or engaged. Like, it's not always easy, or just it doesn't always flow naturally. Sometimes you have to push like these topics to come out. So
yeah.
I have a signature question. Oh, you have a cat too.
Yeah.
Oh.
I saw your cat.
It's
yeah.
Oh my god. She's sleeping.
Oh, cute. He's totally sleeping.
Yeah, she insisted that she wanted to be in my room, and I was like, but I have to work, and she didn't care. She was just like, let me be in my bed.
Like, oh, that's precious.
Oh, how old are
she's like maybe 3.
Hi.
Beautiful.
Hi, cute.
Her name's Basic.
Hmm?
Her name's Basic.
Oh, hi. Hi, Basic. We all need the basics. Yeah,
I know.
it's great.
Exactly. Basic, sweet girl.
Oh, I'm all about cats like jumping in, and when we're having like Zoom meetings and classes and interviews. I think they're like the best part.
I know. Like, hi. She's loving it.
Hi. Oh, so
got it.
Hey. So I ask both of you these questions, like you and Basic. What is a quote or a saying that you live by?
Oh, a quarter saying that I live by, man. There's a few, but I always say there's one that's kind of basic, but it's I say you say you see the same people going up as you do coming down. And that is all about just being nice and consistent to everybody that you come across, because you never know who you're gonna see on the way up, and they're going up, and you're like, well, hold on a second, they were just like an intern, and now they're above you. So it's like just being kind to everybody that you cross, and also because you never know what like they're going through, and just the very very basic uh sort of fundamental ways to act. But I just like that quote a lot.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah.
What about you?
Oh, well.
Yeah, right.
Because I always ask questions, but I never really.
No one ever really asks them back.
I mean, there is a quote that I really like that I heard recently. I think a couple of years ago. That really resonates with me. And it is. I think there are two really, but the first one is the universe is unfolding as it should, which like it's after 1.5 years of like a global pandemic. I'm 22. I would never imagine that. If you ask me like what do you think the future will look like, I wouldn't have guessed like a global pandemic would have been there.
Oh,
so now I really rely on this sentence, on this saying, to like everything, like major change is good, growth is good, change is supposed to make you uncomfortable. So I think like it helps me to accept change and go through that without being too scared. It's like the universe is going through what it's supposed to go through, and I think it's better to handle change like in a calmer way than it is like to refuse it and not like to always oppose it. So
that's awesome. I love that. Yeah, it's tough. You're only 22. This is a real big shock, I'm sure,
I really hope things are gonna get better. I really hope. I mean, it's great that we're like moving forward. We're making progress, and now also there are many. I was also having another interview, and we spoke about the possibility of seeing like being there in the future with the vaccine also for HIV/AIDS, and it will be awesome. It will be great, and like see also like not only being scared, like maybe being afraid of what the future is going to look like, but also having hopes and like dreams, and say, oh, I think like we're still working on some things, and they may pay back in the future.
Oh, they will. I hope. I mean, we'll get through this at some point. But you live in Italy, you said?
Yeah.
Right. Like right. Where? Which part?
I just recently moved. I did my undergrad in Rome, which I think everybody loves that city. Me too. It's great.
Yeah, I mean, but that's like where a lot of this kind of kicked off too. So you guys have been through a lot out there.
Yeah, it was really it was really tough. I've also lived in other states, and I think they handled the pandemic very differently, because we were one of the countries. We couldn't leave our house from 10th of March until the 19th of May. So yeah.
March to the 19th. Yeah. So we're like the same.
We couldn't even like go for a walk. We could only like grocery shopping, or maybe going like if you needed something like desperately, like you could have gone there, but we couldn't like go for a walk. And many other countries have dealt with this differently, like Germany or Switzerland or the Netherlands. They could leave their house, but our government chose not to, because they were too scared, because we had a lot of losses. And I understand that. It was to protect everybody.
I bet you were scared, because they really, at first when they told us, it was so scary,
Yeah.
So I understand.
I don't know, I was in the States, but I think it really put us all together through like a moment of growth, that whether you wanted it or not, you just had to deal with this. So we all did our best, like, so.
Yeah, you had to deal with how to like have fun at home.
We baked a lot.
Yeah,
we really baked a lot. We did.
I'm sure. I think everybody learned how to cook better. What else do you do?
I did yoga. Like I try to put my mind like at ease in this way. So I think it was a moment of introspection for everyone. Everyone was just, how's the world gonna go on with that? I mean, I graduated online. So,
Nice.
in the comfort of my own home.
That's not bad. Well, hey, congrats with that. That's amazing.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
I think I have to get going because I have another one coming up.
Thank you so much for joining us today. It was such a pleasure to meet you. Looking forward to all of your next movies and TV shows and projects, like music projects, everything. I will follow your work. It was so nice meeting you and your cat. We also say hi.
Says bye.
Thank you so much.
Have a good day. All right.
You too.
I'll talk to you later.
Bye.